do my
Well,
best.
welcome everybody to our webinar tonight or today about financial aid award letters. Acceptances are coming in. Yeah, keep the emojis coming. I love the emojis. Acceptances are coming in, so we're going to spend some time on that, talk a little bit about how scholarships fit in there, kind of tease appeals, because that's going to be a whole webinar of its own. And then, as I always do for all of you, we will talk about the latest from the Department of Ed and the FAFSA, just so that you are up to speed on what this next step in this crazy year process is. So, as we always do, why don't you just pop in the chat where you are, where you're coming from? And I think we mostly have probably 2024 parents, but you can put in the year of your child. But if we have some younger ones, that's all good. You guys will be learning along the way. Yeah, lots of 2024. So you guys are you're in the thick of it.
All over. I saw a Southie there. What who's in Florida? I'm in Florida tomorrow. Who's in there we go.
There's a Jacksonville, there's a couple Floridas. Hey, stop bragging that you're going to Florida tomorrow. I've had enough. I'm sitting, actually, it's a little sunny right now in Seattle. I should be happy, but anyways. Okay, well, we did this last time, and so we're going to try it again because I think it was super fun, and I think the person that shared really enjoyed it. So if somebody wants to raise their hand, I think it's cool to just, if you want to share kind of what's happened in your household through this journey with the FAFSA. If anybody feels compelled to share with the group, raise your hand and we'll pick somebody to share.
Just kind of a check-in, right? Like, where are you guys at right now? What are the conversations in your household? Have you got in and you're a little worried about the money, or still waiting? We don't know where we're in yet, and when's this gonna, when are we gonna have all our answers?
All right, so we got, I think William is the first one that I saw come in. So William, I'm going to allow you to talk here. There you are.
I can talk now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So why don't you, share with us where you are and, just a little bit about what's
right now, big thing we're waiting for is the FAFSA being approved. We got accepted actually my daughter got accepted Rutgers, but it was Rutgers Honors Program, not just Rutgers University.
Congrats.
Which is very sweet.
It's a big deal.
We were in contact with Swarthmore and Hopkins earlier. We visited, and we're waiting for April 1st. They're supposed to let us know about acceptance or not, but we were being not bombarded, but the dean of admissions for both colleges said, "You sure you want to come here? Why don't you come here? Why don't you come here?" Even tour the campuses and the whole bit. But again, my daughter Flora is like a 4.5, took AP classes, National Honor Society, involved the community, was in the front page of Philadelphia Inquirer talking about social rights, and gave some speeches right after he was congressman last summer. So she's pretty much on the ball. And she's all the important thing I tell people, she's Latina, which is also critical too, I think. So we're just
for her.
Yeah, she's, wait till you see her sister. The younger sister is working on it. She's learning Chinese after learning Japanese and Korean because she got bored.
Where are you overachievers from, William? Is that New Jersey? Is that you
Collingswood. Got it. And they do music, they do martial arts. It's just they don't watch a whole lot of TV per se. They do reading and activity and doing things. So, I mean, for them, it's a big thing to go to college. They're just nervous about the future. And I said, the future, take care of itself. Just do well in school and the rest will happen. Don't worry about it. It hasn't happened yet.
And what, that doesn't sound like a New Jersey accent, though.
Well, I'm from all over the place, man. I was born in Nevada. I was raised in Chicago. And I went to school here at Rutgers myself some years ago. My family's down from New Orleans. So we all get together. It's an interesting mix of people.
All right.
Nice.
And then what's the how you guys feeling about this financial piece of the puzzle? Obviously, we're still waiting on admissions. What's the
Well, I mean, we're I'm waiting to get in writing. I believe it's in writing. But so far, the colleges spoke to said, in their words, quote, "You need not worry about college tuition, residential costs." Okay, be specific. So we'll see what happens. I think they're waiting for acceptance to go out, letters go out first. And as far as Rutgers is concerned, we're doing a tour up there in a couple weeks. We already did a tour up there, but again, Rutgers is waiting for the FAFSA to come out.
You guys, you sound pretty relaxed there too. You feeling confidence is high? I mean, we're not
Well, my salary isn't the greatest because what I did, I took your advice rather than with my ex-wife and her husband, we went and did on the FAFSA. And so since I only get paid half of what they paid, I mean, it's more likely to get accepted in terms of the fact that Rutgers and Princeton, we found out, we looked at Princeton, but not the same feeling, that if you get a certain level, like 60 grand a year, it's free college.
and it sounds like you guys are more or less obviously I'm getting personal here, but you're on the same page here. You guys are in it for your daughter, it sounds like, right? I mean,
Yes.
we work with a lot of different family dynamics, and
Both daughters, because what happened, New Jersey has something unique that other states in the country do not have. Both parents, regardless of divorce or not, are expect and required by state law to pay for half the child's college tuition. So the mother argued against this. Her attorney said, "Shut up, you got to do this." So I told the mother, "Have me do the front piece, and I'll get something that we don't have to worry. You have to worry about paying much."
well, and listen, and William, and you know what, we're gonna get. I really appreciate you sharing, appreciate you going. Appreciate your sharing your story, right? Because I think everybody can relate to at least a piece of that. And I will tell you that for a split household family, something that's I think a shock to everybody is that it doesn't really matter what the state laws say or what your divorce agreement says, right? From the college's perspective, they don't send a bill to each household according to that agreement, right? They're just going to say, we're going to process the financial aid based on our formula, and we're going to send the bill ultimately to the kid, and it's up to the families to figure out how they do that. Now, again, it sounds like in your household, everybody's on the same page, and that's phenomenal, or your households, I should say, but that's just kind of an interesting tidbit that regardless of what state laws might say or a divorce agreement might say, it's not honored, I guess, by the college. They're just going to say, here's what you got to come up with. None of our business how you do that. But thank you again, William, for going on record there. And thanks everybody else. We had a bunch of people raise their hands there, Peggy.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That was great.
Yeah.
There we go.
Let me play from the start. I know I got to hopefully I can drive. All right, Peggy, I'm gonna need some coaching probably.
Yeah, we'll give you a grade at the end. We'll see how well you do here. All right, so let's kick this off because we got a lot to cover. So for people that are new, this is who we are, and this truly is our mission. This is what gets Matt and I out of bed every day. Oh, just to housekeeping, we are sending a recording. I already answered that question, but just so everybody hears, we will send a recording. And I know people are putting a lot of stuff in the chat based on us asking somebody to share, but now that we're into the meat of this, put your questions in the Q&A because that's where Matt and I are going to be looking to answer. So it's just easier than being in two places. So if you pop something in the chat, just copy and paste it over there in the Q&A, and we'll do our best to get to as many questions. So there we are. And everybody should have received an email encouraging you to set up your free MyCap account. I know we usually ask who's our groupies and who's our newbies. We didn't do that today, but you know, the groupies, you guys know all about this, right? You have your account set up. If you're new, definitely do this. Matt just put the link in the chat. In 3 schools, Matt's going to show you in a little bit, you can upload award letters. So it's a great thing. So let's talk about the timeline. So applications for admission were submitted. You submitted the financial aid forms, might have had some issues with the FAFSA, but hopefully everybody's got it submitted as best you can. You got some acceptances. People were putting that in the chat, and you could have received some merit notifications, maybe not all of them. So if, you know, Matt and I and our team at CAP, we've helped a lot of people appeal already, even with no FAFSA in for merit. If the stars are aligned, you've got awards that make sense, and we're going to touch on appealing in a little bit. So you could have already appealed or could be appealing, right? That's something we can support you on. Then you're going to receive these financial aid award letters. Some people are getting them, and I'm going to show you a bunch in a minute. And then there might be appeals again. So this is just a weird year across the board, that everything's a little bit thrown on its backside, or whatever the phrase is. I'm terrible at phrases. Okay.
You
So
always, it's very endearing how you always screw those up, Peggy.
I just always do. I shouldn't even start because I always mess it up. Okay. So what is on a financial aid award letter? Ideally, you're going to see these things as well as the cost of attendance. So grants. We've talked about this since the beginning. This is kind of financial aid 101. This is the need-based aid that you could get from the federal, state governments, or most of it comes from the college endowments, the institutional. And this is where your student aid index matters, which is why you're submitting the FAFSA and potentially the CSS profile. Then also potentially scholarships, which is when we're using, I'm going to show you on some awards that sometimes the colleges use scholarship for need-based and sometimes merit, which just adds to the confusion. But let's just say here, for sake of argument, merit, scholarships, the non-need based aid, we're going to call scholarships based on grades, test scores, typically your child. Then there's work study. That's federal need-based aid because the government's paying half the wage. That can show up on the award. And then loans. You're going to see the plus loans, which used to be parent plus loans. I still call them that because it is a parent's loan. And then the direct federal student loans. Those are the things that you're going to see as part of a package. Okay, so now there's animation here. You're going to have a lot of clicks there, buddy. Hope you can do it.
Sorry for the Q&A.
This is the worst one for you to navigate.
Right?
Okay, so this is a UC Davis award, and I start with this one, not to pick on UC Davis, but to kind of pick on them. So let's look at the pieces of this award. So go ahead and click. So first, they give you the total cost of attendance, so that's lovely. Then they tell you, and they're calling it an EFC still, because this was last year, you see 23-24, which it was still called that. They're telling you what the EFC is. Then they're telling you what your need is. The need for this family, you're going too fast.
Sorry.
Their need is, the school costs 74. They think this family can afford 39,000. The need is 31,000. Then they're going to say, okay, now this is what we're going to do for you. Parent plus loan. What else are they going to do? And then they're going to do these direct federal loans. So all loans, and then what do they say at the end? Remaining cost is 0.
You got a full scholarship. You got a full scholarship to UC
So
Davis.
basically, you're paying full price and it's all in loans. They're basically saying, here's a whole bunch of loans, and we'll talk about loans later on, not tonight, but that's a whole webinar in and of itself, even to talk about the federal loan. So this is could be misleading. I've had parents in live presentations that are like, wow, this almost seems deliberately misleading. It just is what it is. That's how it's set up.
And I'll just add, there's plenty of people, especially if you're not really familiar with how this process works, or maybe you're relatively new to the country, right? You're a first generation family. And you can see how this is presented, where you're seeing financial aid totals 70,000, right? You don't kind of go as deep to see that they're loans, and then the remaining cost is 0. There are actual families that interpret this as a full scholarship, sign on the dotted line, celebrate like crazy, only to find out, months later that, what the reality is. So
yes, and this is per year, and a couple of people said that I'm going too fast, so I will slow down. Okay, so this one.
good luck with that. Good luck with that, audience.
The only reason I'm showing you this one is I'll let Matt click once, that I want to show you that some schools, we don't see this all the time, but we do see it. They might offer their own loan. And that's important to actually look at, because in my experience, sometimes they're pretty competitive with the federal loan. So you want to look at the specifics of the loan as far as the interest rate and everything. So that's why I put that on there, just so you could see, an example of that. Can you cover over the pointer that you're talking about? Okay. They just want you to hover over what we're talking about. Okay. All right. So here, interestingly, this year, I got 2 Drexel Awards. So I thought this was great because they're 2 really different families. So I thought it was a wonderful example to show you. So here's Drexel. So go ahead and click. Okay, so gift aid. This is the free stuff, right? This is and they're both called scholarships. So this is the merit aid. So go ahead and click, Matt. But you gotta make sure it is merit aid. Because remember when I said sometimes, and I'll show you an example, a school uses the term scholarship when it's actually a grant. And the reason why that matters is because merit aid is almost always offered for all 4 years, as long as the student maintains a certain GPA, whereas need-based aid is assessed every year. So if in doubt, look on their website or reach out to the college. You want to make sure. And somebody pointed out, I think I said it, but this is 1 year. This is them saying, here's your package for freshman year. You're going to want to look at this in a 4-year cash flow, ideally. And that's something we can help you with, and it'll relieve a lot of stress and a lot of, confusion and not understanding the total cost. There's direct costs and indirect costs. Direct costs, as the name kind of hints, that's freshman year, it's tuition and fees, housing, it's what you're paying the school directly. But there's also books, and there's travel, and there's this personal expense category. And you want to look at the transportation, because you see down there where the arrow is, it's $900. Well, if you live out in Seattle near me, you're going to spend way more than $900 to get back and forth to Drexel a bunch of times in a year. Sometimes it's inflated. I'll show you one in a minute. It's actually 0, which is crazy. So you want to look at these things and see what the college is putting for their transportation costs. Okay. And then this is the second page. So they nicely, this is the second page. So they nicely tell you, hey, this is our estimated cost of attendance, $83,758. We're giving you $28,000 of the free stuff. That leaves almost $56,000. Then they're telling you, all right, well, here's an unsubsidized student loan. That's what they're giving. And then they nicely describe what these different things are. And the second one down, payment plan. Make sure you look at payment plans, because a lot of people take advantage of them. This one says it's quarterly. I think Drexel's on quarters. So they all are unique in their plans. Some of them you're even starting to pay before your child gets there, right? So that it's easier on your cash flow. So just keep that in mind. And a lot of them, it's just a one-time fee at the beginning. They're not charging you interest on it. They're just trying to help you be able to pay it, basically.
I just caught this, Peggy, but this is almost a perfect example of like how these award letters can be a little bit confusing. Like if you look at the payment plans, it says families are able to sign up for quarterly payment plans that spread out balances due into monthly payments. That's a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
Which one
And
is
they're a quarter school, so they're saying they will divide the quarter into monthly costs, which is helpful for a lot of people. So this is another student still at Drexel. So go ahead and click, because I have more clicks on this one, Matt. So again, is this free money or merit? You look, Dean Scholarship, that's merit. Then they're using the term grant. It's pretty rare that a grant is going to be merit. Scholarship being need, that happens more often. But so it's a Drexel grant. That means Drexel's money. Then Pell Grant and FSEOG, that's federal. And you notice they're estimated. That's because the FAFSA, they don't have the FAFSA information yet. So they're backing into it, but they can't say for sure. And actually, this is last year's Pell amount, because Congress hasn't even passed the next Pell, which should be in the 9,000. So
Hey, can you talk a little bit about why people should care if it's a merit-based scholarship versus a need-based grant? Isn't it all just free money? Why should we care what the distinction is?
Yeah. So, and I said this, but it bears repeating, merit scholarships are almost always given out for 4 years. And if you're not sure, read the fine print or ask the school. So you can count on that in your 4-year cash flow. You can put that 20,000 every year. In this case, 8,000 24,000 every year. Whereas need, like that grant with this family, say one of the parents got a big promotion, they're going to assess that need the next year, and they could lose all of these grants. Okay. Or they could lose the Pell and the FSEOG and only get 8,000 in the Drexel grant. So that's why it's so important to understand that. And I've mentioned the 4-year cash flow twice, because I really want you to shoot to do that. Because somebody asked a great question. Is this 1 year? Yeah, it's 1 year. They want you to look at it in 1 year chunks, and then you get to junior year and then you're making crazy decisions because maybe it wasn't affordable. Okay, so that's page 1 of this one. Second page, they do the same thing nicely on top, but then Matt, if you click, you can see they were offered that federal work study I talked about, and then the direct student loans. And then they talk about, payment plans again with the same language. So I thought that was interesting to compare. So now here's Pomona. Okay, so Pomona does the same thing. You can go ahead and click, Matt. They do direct costs. They talk about indirect costs, but look up there at travel, Matt. You can start 0. So unless you're even if you're driving, you might have tolls, you have gas. So that's lowering that 85,300 that they're saying is their total cost. It's going to be more than that for most families. I've never seen a school say 0. You're right. The Pell Grant was that last year. Congress has not approved the new Pell. So the new Pell is in the 9,000s. So, okay. Then they're saying EFC. They're using the old language. It's student aid index now, but maybe they're still deciding to call it EFC. It would be good if they moved over so parents aren't as confused and kids. But they're telling you your EFC, which a lot of schools don't. That helps when you're appealing, because if you come to us for help, we can back into that and see what they're doing with that EFC, that SAI, if we calculated something different. And then they're giving, there's a bookstore award, there's a scholarship. Pomona's not a school that gives a lot of merit. We just know that because that's the type of school they are. And so they're sharing here a little bit of gift aid, student employment, which is work study. They're calling it student employment. It's more than likely work study. So it's need-based aid. And they're saying 0 loans. You can always get a direct unsubsidized loan. And I tell families that all the time. Reach out and tell them you want it. Bill Gates's kids can get it. So that's another thing. If you need loans, that's usually the best place to start. Okay, so that's Pomona.
That was generous of them to throw in the $100 for the bookstore. That'll make a nice dent in that 85,000 and change.
Yeah, that $85,000 price tag. Okay, so last but not least, Bard. So they again very nicely lay out the direct costs and then the indirect costs. And then you see there's this big, nice Bard scholarship for $52,000. Well, Bard is another school that doesn't do a lot of scholarships. That is most likely a grant. So just important for the family to understand that. And then again, lowballing travel. It's funny because this year I see the schools either lowballing travel or they have it at like $4,000, which to me should be lowered. So I don't know what the deal is with that. But you see down here in the red how they very clearly say we need to receive a completed FAFSA for this to be valid. Now they're basically giving all of their money, that this unsubsidized loan, they can't give that without a FAFSA on file, but they're still saying we need the FAFSA. Not that it's on you. If you've submitted it, it's up to the government to get them their information and they do their stuff in the background. So that hopefully that gives you an idea of how these financial aid award letters look, basically. So now, Matt, you can continue with your sharing.
I will, yeah, and I'll just and it can be confusing, and hopefully I think Peg explained why it matters if it's a scholarship or a grant, because it always bothers us where don't call it a scholarship if it's a need-based grant. Boston College does that, for example, as well.
What did you say the stat that they did a study? Actually, my youngest sister was involved in it. All around, they did a huge analysis of financial aid award letters, and didn't they say there's like 700 or 900 different versions of them?
So last year, looking at 4,000 4-year colleges, or maybe include, I don't know if there was some of those were community schools too, but 4,000 colleges, there was 914 different ways that award letters were presented, right? So you guys just got a great kind of idea of that, right? Kind of a nice little example, right? In some big schools, small schools, public, private, and just radical differences in how that information is presented. And every time I look at those things, I'm like, it's not intuitive at all. And ultimately, we're trying to figure out, well, what am I responsible for? What do we have to actually pay? And what's a loan versus free money, need versus merit, et cetera. So that's where I think one of the things that we feel most proud of when we look at our platform, right? And again, if you haven't created your account, please do it. It's free. You can put as many award letters as you want in here. But here's the use that we're getting out of it right now, right? As these award letters come in, so you're getting your acceptances, you're getting these actual award letters. And to me, the biggest kind of cheat code that you can use in identifying what's just a merit-based scholarship offer versus our kind of complete financial aid offer. If you see as part of your offer, those federal direct student loans, right, that usually, generally speaking, total $5,500 for an incoming freshman, that's your award. Okay, that's your award. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into your account and you're going to want to upload it. We've got a lot of awards uploaded in this particular sample here. But all you have to do is say add offer, right? Put your school in there. Okay, so say, hey, Boston College. And then you can just take a picture of the award, right? A PDF, whatever it happens to be, upload it here, save it. And we're going to do two things for you, right out of the gates. Number one is that we're going to try to just make all these different awards more transparent. And we do it a couple different ways. Number one, I want people, as I'm talking to families, I don't want you thinking about plus loans. I don't want you thinking about work study. I don't want you thinking about, transportation costs. I want you to have a very clear understanding of what do you actually have to come up with before we bake in those other things, right? Before we bake in loans, work study, book expenses, miscellaneous costs, all this stuff. And that's what we're going to do for you automatically. And then when we drill down on it, okay, I know this is, it's probably not very clear coming through your screens at home, or especially if you're on your phone. But what we've done, what the technology has done, is taken these 914 different ways that colleges present their offers, and we've created one kind of uniform financial aid award. So you all can really have transparency and compare apples to apples. Okay. Thank you for the emojis. Peggy, you seen those?
Oh, I'm seeing them. Thank you.
Some emojis there. And for example, like one of the things we did that we felt really strongly about was we automatically will throw those plus loans aside, right? Any of these colleges that are trying to say this is quote unquote financial aid, nonsense, right? We're not including that. We want you focused on what's need, what's merit, what's subsidized versus what's unsubsidized. So you know what you're signing up for. You're not going to be one of those families that in August, as you're moving your kids into the dorm, you find out that you can't go to the school because it's all loans, right? Or most of it is loans, okay? Taking it one step further, the next thing that the technology does is it's going to say, did you get a fair offer? Okay. I consistently pick on Boston College. I can do that because it's kind of like you can pick on your family, you can pick on your siblings, right? They are your best buddies. Nobody else can, but if you're close enough, you're allowed to pick on them. They're an amazing institution. They're in my backyard here. I'm not crazy about their business model, and a part of it, generally speaking, is that they under-award families. They give them less need-based financial aid than they say they do, based on their net price calculator. So we play the watchdog there because nobody knows that. They don't know that their family got less than they should, but we do. So that, again, is all baked into the platform where we'll tell you, hey, based on your family's profile and your offer, we think you have a very strong chance at appealing. In BC's case, maybe, and in this case, it's because we got less need-based financial aid than BC says a family like ours should get. Sometimes it's based on a particular college, right? Where maybe we got a pretty good offer, but this is a school that generally has wiggle room. So we'll flag that, right? And say, hey, there's usually some gray area here. And then sometimes, not that this is what you want to see, but we might say, you know what, this looks like a fair offer. Based on this family and based on this college's business model, for lack of a better term. It doesn't mean don't appeal, but just let's be wary that this kind of adds up, right? What we're seeing is about what we would expect. And again, for those of you that are new, also, just I'll quickly say that now, especially if you're a senior, is about the time to go looking for private scholarships. Just about every private scholarship in the country is baked into the platform too. So this is a great way to figure out where it might make sense to apply on that front. Let me just bring this deck up again here, and I never drive, Peggy. You know what I mean? So
I know, I can see the sweat dripping off your brow.
yeah, you can tell you got a rookie at the helm here. So it kind of tying private scholarships back to financial aid offers in general, and this is actually a question that came up a couple times earlier today. There are times when if you get a private scholarship, so let's just say you go to use our platform and you say, hey, I'm a resident of California, for example, and you see 6 pages of scholarships that are just for California residents, and that is in fact what it is. And you find out, hey, these couple are just geared towards females, and you apply for a couple of those, and you get one. And you get $5,000 for via that, and that's amazing. And then you get accepted into your college, you get your financial aid award letter. And then after you've accepted, you put in your deposit to accept that college, and you get a letter this spring that says, hey, did you win any local scholarships? And you say, yeah, we did. We won $5,000 from the state program for females going to pursue engineering. And they say, awesome, congratulations. Now we've reduced your financial aid award by $5,000 because you're all set. You didn't need that money and you're broke even. This is kind of a nasty thing that, or at least that's how we think of it in this college space. It's called scholarship displacement. So it's if you receive a scholarship outside of the college itself, they could reduce your award. So we want to make people aware of it as early as possible, because number one, and I'll kind of skip to the finish line here. In general, we always want to appeal or negotiate for more financial aid, more scholarships. This is something, sorry, not negotiate. Peggy doesn't let me say that, but that's, if you're brand new to us, that's ultimately what we're doing. But in Peggy's defense, it is important.
But it's not your mindset, yes.
Yeah, the nomenclature matters there. We are appealing. But we will always appeal if a college says you want a local scholarship, so we're going to reduce the amount of money we initially gave you. No way. We need every dollar there. And not every college does that. And it's very rare that it impacts merit-based scholarships, although we have seen it. But generally speaking, or I shouldn't say generally, but if you receive the need-based award and you receive an outside scholarship, that could negatively impact your need-based scholarship at a college. So this isn't a known thing, right? But it is something that absolutely happens. So we like to educate our families, our crew here, our groupies, and new and old alike. So this doesn't happen, right? This doesn't happen because we want you to apply for outside scholarships. We want you to get outside scholarships, but we want you to realize that, right? We want you to benefit from that directly. So as promised, we got some questions here at the beginning, how to appeal for the best possible package. Peg and I will do entire webinars just based on how to appeal for more money. And this will happen in the coming weeks. This year is a little bit wonky. But I at least want to tease some value here. And one thing that I will say, and Peg is going to re-emphasize this, and a statistic that we have been just really gravitating towards as a team, is that 7 out of 10 families will make a mistake on the financial aid applications that end up costing them money, right? They overvalue their home, they overvalue their business, they included retirement assets on the FAFSA. That's the most common and critical mistake. They said their 529 plan was the student's money, when it's not. It's your money as the parent, right? There's a bunch of mistakes that are really easy to make that translates to you getting less money, right? So the first thing that we do when we sit with a family that says, hey, we want to go appeal for more financial aid at Loyola Chicago, is we're going to say, great, let us see your financial aid applications, because we want to gut check those things. Because oftentimes we'll say, well, you made a mistake, and that's automatically going to get us some more money before we even talk about an appeal. These are a couple of kind of pillars in how we want to appeal, right? We want to bring some human element to this, right? There is a human element to this. These are humans making decisions. Of course, there is a quantitative, objective element to it. There are formulas, there are guidelines, but there are humans making these decisions, and we want to leverage that to our advantage. And that is to say, like, we want these people to be motivated to give us more money. We don't want them going. Peg and I, we're really fortunate. We work with a bunch of financial aid counselors currently employed or former financial aid counselors. And we had this great offsite in Boston last week. So we got to be in the same room with a bunch of these folks. And they reminded us of this, of like, when I'm hearing an appeal, if this person is being a jerk or just playing incredible hardball, I'm going, I don't want to deal with this person for 4 years, right? Versus this approach of, we are trying to make this happen for our kid. Please help us make this happen. That matters, right? Make it easy for them. We want to spoon feed them a specific amount. We want to show them offers from competitors, right? We always want to have competitors. We want to challenge things that we didn't even know they were evaluating behind the scenes, which is our deductions, depreciation, things like this, that PhD level reasons that we're going to appeal, and we're not going to go too far in the weeds tonight. And then again, it's good old fashioned persistence, right? Peg, you heard Mike Hinderman, one of our colleagues, who's the director of scholarships at University of Oklahoma, was like, look, I don't want to deal with a jerk, but when these people sometimes we just throw a few bucks at them to shut them up, in so many words, right? He's a Midwestern boy. He said it in a nicer way than I did, but that's kind of the deal, right? And then the how matters, right? If we're appealing for need-based financial aid or merit-based scholarships, how and where we do that matters. And again, that's something that we love working with families on, to make sure they get that right. Because if we get it right, here's a perfect example. And Peggy, I think you can take it away here, probably.
Yeah, so here's an example of appeal. One of our pros, that's what we call them internally, did. So here's the original offer. So they got a nice scholarship of 12.5 and a nice need-based almost 22,000. And then we helped them appeal, so 34, whatever that said, 35,000 in gift aid. We appealed based on the home equity. Occidental is one of these schools that looks at the equity in the home you live in, and appealed based on, some parameters, and look what happened. Merit stayed the same because you're appealing for need at that point. Look at that number. It jumped to 49.5. Now, is this the norm? Not necessarily. We're trying to show you something that worked. But this year, I've had merit 4,500 a year. That's $18,000 in the family's pocket. You had a need-based one. How much was it? 10?
I thought you said, Peg, if somebody books an hour with us for an appeal, they're guaranteed about $28,000 in a return. Isn't that? Am I putting words in your mouth? Yeah. But it's an excellent point, because I know there's probably a lot of folks that own their home, right, have some equity in their primary residence. Number one, you might have no idea that colleges actually hold that against you. So you would certainly want to know who does, and then how can I go back to them and poke some holes on how they assessed, how much equity that we can, access and give it to these guys, right?
And just somebody put, because the chat keeps popping up, only the CSS profile schools look at your home equity. So Occidental is a school that requires the CSS profile as well as the FAFSA. It won't be on the table on a FAFSA school because they don't look at it. So that wouldn't be.
But they will look at other property, right?
Yep.
So
any other real
estate, any other real estate,
yeah, they will look at that. So that's something to understand. So let's take a few minutes here. Like I promised at the beginning, let's talk about the latest information that we're getting from federal student aid. So just in case people haven't been on a previous webinar, so basically the Department of Ed came out and said in March, like right now, we are starting to send the FAFSA information to the colleges. They need to get it, obviously, so they can produce these financial aid award letters. Some people are writing in and saying, I haven't seen one of these. Well, from a FAFSA only school, they really can't produce it. All of the awards I showed you are CSS profile schools. So they're backing into it. They have all your information on the CSS. They ask a lot. You know that. You've done it. So they're backing in that one, backed into a Pell, backed into a FSCOG grant, right? So they're backing into it. It's unofficial. But these other schools, they can't get it to you yet. So you're waiting to see if you're eligible for need-based aid. So the good news is this information is starting to move. They said by the middle of March, and so it's starting to move, but I don't think it's all going to be done by March 15th. So the information is going. You can reach out to your schools and say, hey, are you getting this? When can we anticipate a financial aid award letter? This is the Office of Financial Aid. Admissions does the merit. These award letters come out of the Office of Financial Aid. So let's talk about what happens once they get all that. Your child can go in, log into their FAFSA, and look at what's called the FAFSA submission summary. If you have older kids, this is replacing the student aid report, the SAR. And it's a little different, but not that much different. So don't confuse this with the submission confirmation that your child got when you did the FAFSA. That's just confirming that the FAFSA was submitted. This is something, there will be another email sent to your child. So a huge takeaway here is you have to be all over your child's email. If they're not looking at it and they're not forwarding it to you, you need to look at it, because important information is going to be sent to them. The email that they use to create their FSA ID. So this email will come saying, Dear Johnny, your FAFSA submission summary is ready and you can go view it. And you're going to want to do that. So go ahead and click. There's going to be 4 parts of this. There's going to be eligibility overview, the FAFSA form answers, which is where you can see your answers, the school information for all the schools you sent it to, and then next step. So there's going to be, you can see here, and I'm sorry it's blurry. I grabbed this and it was blurry on their deal. I don't think they wanted to make it totally clear. So let's look at the eligibility overview first. So you can go to the next slide. So basically what it's telling you, if you look to the right here, hey, you might be eligible for this amount of a Pell and this amount of direct student loans. And they saying you may be eligible for work study. These are all unofficial, hey, you might be eligible for this. Then at the bottom, you see your student aid index. That's what got calculated from the FAFSA. That is official. That's the only thing in here that's official. That might be the first time you're seeing your SAI, because you might not have seen it on the confirmation when you submitted the FAFSA. So that's what's on the eligibility overview. So let's go to the next tab, which is your answers. Each one of these, you can click on those little carrots next to personal identifiers, demographics. This is where you can make a correction. So I know a lot of people been like, oh, I messed up. I need to make a correction. So if you click one more time, Matt, I think I have an arrow there that points to it. See that box up there that says make a correction? This is where you're going to do that. So go ahead and click, Matt. I want to just cover like what maybe you might have to, these are the most common reasons why people make a correction. And the third one is actually relevant for the CSS profile, not for the FAFSA, but you could add the overvalued other real estate. So that third bullet is not for the FAFSA, but the other ones all are. A lot of people will say, oh, crap, I put in my retirement balances, right? That could shoot up your SAI big time. You're only putting in the balances for the student you're submitting the FAFSA for, the 529 balance, not your other kids. That's a change. And if you're asked about your business value, that's a change. All businesses, you might have overvalued your business. You should talk to us. If you have other real estate, and for the CSS, your primary home, you might have overvalued those. That might be something you've got to look at if it's a CSS school on appeal. If you have other real estate and you overvalued it, that might be a problem. So I've had people that just put their market value in there. You want to put your equity in there, which is market value minus mortgages. So these are just a few of the places, and Matt rattled off the statistic, or maybe you didn't. One, I can't remember all these statistics, but
Well,
number that make an
Peggy,
error on the FAFSA.
you're acting like you did 3 webinars today. I mean, what is it? What is it?
But those are the most common places where you're gonna want to get in there and make that correction. And there might be, there might be others. All right, the third section, this just gives you some stats based on the government has something called the scorecard. So it's telling you retention and different things about the schools that your child asked to have the FAFSA information submitted. So that's fine, but I mean, you can find that information elsewhere. Then the last tab, the next steps, that's important because in this example here, you see there's a little red circle up there with a 1 in it. That means this family has a to-do that they need to take care of. Yours might not, but if you have a to-do, you got to take care of it because you might, and most likely it's sending something to the colleges, maybe some documentation or something, but you want to take care of that immediately. We've already had enough delays this year that the minute you can get in here and do this, you want to make sure you do it. So I just wanted to give you, that's kind of the latest and greatest from federal student aid on what's happening. So hopefully you're going to be getting this email sooner rather than later, but can't promise it. Can't promise it. So
Hurry up and wait. A little bit more of hurry up and wait, right? But to me, guys, there is right, for any family that we're working with right now, there are some things that we can control at the moment, right? And what we are doing, because I think, and again, we're fortunate enough to have some kind of insider intel, for lack of a better word here, and Peggy will put this
yeah, I'm grabbing it.
link in the chat here for those of you. Our groupies know whenever we do something live, we always hook it up for our folks that decide to show up live and spend an hour with us. But what we're doing tonight is the firm recommendation. There's a whole bunch of different ways that you can leverage our services and our expertise, but we're talking to the class 2024 tonight, and any underclassmen or anybody, it doesn't matter who's on here, but I'm going to make a very firm recommendation. Book an hour with us and book that sooner than later, right? I mean, book it tonight so you can get the 20% off, right? And then you get an hour with anybody. It could be me, Peg, or anybody on our team, right? The next available, and we have unbelievably talented people that, do this stuff in their sleep that are going to maximize the odds of you getting more money from the colleges that you've been accepted into, whether it's more merit, whether it's more need, whether it's both. But that's the action item for tonight. But it starts now. Even if you haven't gotten an award yet, what we are doing right now is, number one, we're leveraging our technology to say, okay, what award can we expect from this college? We don't have to guess, right? Like if you're working with us, we know within a very small deviation what you're going to get from a college, both merit and need. It doesn't matter what college it is. We're going to have an idea, and we're going to get pretty close. And we're also going to know, we're going to identify your family situation and say, this is how we're going to appeal. Okay, is it going to be merit through the student? Is it going to be need through the parents? Is it going to be both? Do we have some tangible bullet points here? For some folks, it's easy, right? We lost a job. 2022 was a year in which we had a anomaly and an income spike. There's been a change in, our household, right? There's been a separation since then. That's almost easy, right? We'll do that in our sleep. It's the families that are like, well, we don't really have anything to point to. Our income's about the same. We're kind of vanilla. But we want more money, right? Like that's a place where we can help you too, right? Where you're not sure what to do. So, and let me, or it's not very clear how and where you would appeal. If you have set up your free account, right, you're just going to hit this button in the top right corner here. And if you're on the free version of our platform, it'll just say upgrade instead of talk to an expert. It'll say upgrade. You're just going to click on this, and then there'll be 3 versions, and you're going to select software plus expert, put our coupon code in, which is awards 20, and you're off and running, right? If you're already in the premium version of our account, then it'll say talk to an expert up here. Again, same thing. You can do that. I want to book a 1-hour session. And then you can say, it'll ask for your credit card information. You can choose anybody on our team. And look at this. Here's a director of financial aid at Harvard, MIT, the former director of financial aid at USC, the director of scholarships at, where's Mike Kinderman? They're at University of Oklahoma, right? I mean, you have folks that are very, very good at being able to say, okay, you got this award, or you're going to get this award. How do you go back and get more money, right? And it's your hour. You can use it however you want, but this time of year, that's probably something that you would consider. But you have it for a year, right? So if you're an underclassman, you can use that at any point or the next year. Or if you say, you know what, I feel okay about the appeal, but I'm not sure how I'm going to pay this bill. I want to talk about what loan my family should take, right? That's what folks are starting to talk to us about right now. But this will only be for folks that are here live tonight, right? So if you're even considering it, just do it, right? You will be happy that you did. If you're not, come talk to me. This is being recorded here, so if you're not happy, you don't get your money's worth, you don't think there's a straight line to ROI, you let me know, but I'm confident that's not going to be the case. So yeah, and like always, you know, our theme, Peggy, right? Just continue to engage with us. If you're not going to do anything tonight, that's okay. Just keep paying attention, because we're going to continue to go deeper into appeals. But what's very unique about this year, what's very unique about this year is that appeals are all everybody's FAFSA is getting released at the first time, for the first time ever, or within a couple of weeks between mid-March, which obviously we're right around the corner here, and end of March. So colleges across the spectrum are anticipating giving everybody their financial aid awards the first week of April, right? Obviously this is still somewhat fluid, but that means that's all happening at once. So we know, and this has been confirmed by the financial aid counselors on our team, if we can have our appeal ready to go right away, we are at a competitive advantage, because these appeals committees are going to be ready and waiting for those. And most families are going to get their awards. They're going to process them. They're going to think about, how do I go back to these schools to get more money? Or anybody that we're working with, we already have our appeals ready to go. And we're just waiting for the day that we get that official award, and our appeals in there front row, and we are maximizing our odds for getting more money. So there is, again, where there's this wacky year and all this adversity and just wonky timing, that creates huge opportunities if we're ready for it. So.
Yeah, you definitely want to use this time wisely to kind of get your ducks in a row. So this is where you can really get a lot of value by talking to somebody who's been around the block, who knows kind of how these colleges function. And I'm not saying it's easy for us, but we're used to looking at these, right? Where we can back into stuff, and having all of your financial information in the software really helps us to dial in, just to kind of be able to look behind the curtain and see what the colleges are doing. And then sometimes you have situations that come up, and that's where having a bunch of schools that are competing is great, because you can appeal to those schools with the same rationale and then see how they come back. And it's been crazy through the years where you'll see a school that just says, yeah, no, not doing anything, to a school that responds in a way that I could never imagine, and then everything in between. So it just really depends on the school, depends on their yields, it depends on a lot of stuff, how they respond to certain appeals. So
great point, Peggy. And a couple of things I want to hit on, some good questions here, guys. Do not put your home equity should not be listed on the FAFSA at all.
Right.
At all. It's a very common mistake. They're not, and you're not, it's not a knock on you if you did put it there. It's a very common mistake, but it's a mistake. So you do not want that on there at
Yeah,
all.
only other real estate. And when we say equity, we mean your market value, and you don't want to, that needs to be dialed in correctly, minus your mortgages or HELOCs or whatever you might have. That's what you're going to put if you have secondary other real estate, a second home, vacant land, whatever it is. That's for the FAFSA, it's exclusively that.
Yeah, and I think I got a couple other questions here. If I'm already a member, how much does the hour cost? And it's something like it's 20% off, so it's like 240 thereabouts as opposed to the 279 if you're not a member already. And then a question is, and this is a great one, Peg, and it reminds me, I'm sure this will be familiar for you. Last week during our offsite was, is there such a thing to ask for too much additional aid? And Ryan Callahan, again, our teammate that's the director at Harvard Medical School, basically the answer to that is yes, right? Where he's like, if people ask for too much, then we just kind of get, turned off for my words, not his, but it's something to that effect where it's like, it just kind of gets thrown out, right? So that's where it's really part art, part science, right? But it's a great question. Your head's in the right spot where that is like, okay, there's a sweet spot here. We don't want to necessarily ask for the moon where it just gets dismissed. And what that number is, again, is a huge variation. Like there are cases where it is completely appropriate to ask for $55,000 more, and we've done it and we've, come close to it, right? Whereas in other cases, that's immediately in the trash bin, right?
Yeah, yeah. Your ask is really important, because if they look at it and say, you know what, we could meet half that ask. We don't think parents are going to be happy with that. Let's give that $10,000 to another family that hasn't made a direct ask or is asking for, close to that. For them, it's all about, what do we got to do to get a deposit check? Because they know they're not going to get the full pay for most families, but they want to get the most net revenue that they can, right? But they also want, when it gets to appeals, they want to feel like, if we do this kid's going to come, right, in the fall. And so it's a little nuanced on how you do this. So
100%. All right, team. Well, that's about Peggy. I'm a rookie over here, so sorry if I was fumbling.
you did a pretty good job. I got to figure out why I can't share on a webinar. This is an issue. I don't know.
That is an issue. That is an issue. And again, too, it is kind of hilarious that it happens to be where there's the most clicks of any presentation.
I know. On my
entire
so
year here. Well, listen.
Yes, you will get a recording tomorrow, but this coupon is good through tonight. So
tonight, yeah, 12 Eastern.
Go ahead and book it. You don't have to schedule it. If you want to book more than one, then you got to schedule one, buy another one. But if you want to figure out your calendars later tonight and then go back on and schedule it, you can. But definitely, we will give with the recording, we'll send out tomorrow a discount, but it won't be as generous as this one. So we like to award our live people. So
and thanks for William for sharing at the top and kind of getting us started there. We appreciate that, and just hearing kind of where you're at in the journey. And we love I like that. I like hearing from you guys and kind of talking to you and just kind of seeing where you're at, because hopefully there's most folks can kind of relate to everybody else and kind of what are you talking about in your homes and what's working and what's not and all that. But our hope with that is that nobody feels like they're on an island, right? We say every day, multiple times a day, like, I'll be worried about you if you're not a little freaked out here, right? It's your kids and your money and all of that comes with this pressure cooker that
yeah. It's just deep breaths. And you know what? It's a good thing for your kids to learn that things don't always flow seamlessly. Welcome to life. Welcome to the big time. That's all I got to say.
Welcome to the big time.
This is only the beginning. And there's nothing you can do. You don't have to fix the FAFSA. You just
Sucks
have
to be an
wait for
adult,
them to
Peggy.
figure it out.
Sucks to be an adult sometimes.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Well, we appreciate you. Keep following along, and hopefully we have an opportunity to talk to some folks one-on-one and help you squeeze a couple more bucks out of these guys.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
These emojis, Peggy.
Love it.